All right, and welcome back to the forecast card. Honestly, 4-4 in the day, considering how it went, feels pretty shitty. Yeah, let's go through the games. Northwestern State, pretty sweat free. They ended up winning this game outright. It got, I guess, a little bit sweaty near the end of the game, where they only ended up winning by 3, but they were up 10 at half. They kind of kept going back and forth, but they got a nice 3 at the end of the game to avoid what I already knew was going to be a overtime backdoor, which we almost had 3 of today, which would have been great. But luckily, big 3. They hold off Texas A&M from their tying 3, and we win that game outright. Arkansas State, man, these guys just fucking imploded. This game was pretty competitive the entire game. Arkansas State was winning by 2 at half, and then they just couldn't make a shot for like the last 10 minutes. Gave up 53 points to Troy in the second half, just no defense. Got to give it to Troy. They shot incredibly well. But yeah, this game ended up being a 13-point blowout by Troy at the end. Pretty pathetic performance from Arkansas State down the stretch. Oakland, this game pissed me off. I don't even want to get into it. Hopefully, because I know most people don't view this video until the morning, and the line had already shifted to 3.5. So if you got 3.5, you cashed, which is nice. But I didn't. This game. So Oakland was, in my opinion, dominating for a big chunk of that game. They were up like 10 points at some point in the second half with like 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left. They were up 4 at half, completely dominating for some point, and then they're up 3 with about 50 seconds left. They foul Robert Morris on a foul that I don't think was a foul. Lets Robert Morris tie it on a 2-and-1. Obviously, Oakland misses their shot at the end. The game goes to overtime, where Oakland scores 2 fucking points. In 5 minutes in overtime, they score 2 points, and they miss 2 free throws, going 2 for 4 in free throws. If they even make 1 free throw, this game's completely different. But yeah, they scored 2 points in overtime. Lose this game by 3. I lose on the hook. This game pissed me off. It felt like the right side, considering the records between these two teams. Sometimes when you feel like you had a sharp play and you lose it hurts a little bit more, but congrats to anyone that had Robert Morris minus 2.5. And if you had waited Oakland, you cash, but again, it is what it is. I'll take the back doors. Hopefully I get a few more March Madness that go my way. But Ohio State money line. Oh god, this had no life. Gotta give to Montana State. They shot really well. They completely dominated this game. Ended up winning by 20. Idaho State. They played really well to end the season, but they looked completely outmatched this game. Shot terribly. Gave up so many free looks. Just outclassed. That's all it was. Incarnate Word. They end up covering in the end, but they almost didn't cover. This was another game where they were dominating. Somehow this game, I wouldn't say they were dominating. This was at least a pretty close game for most of it. There were some moments where kind of looked like Nichols. Thank you for the correction. I'm pronouncing that correctly now. Was kind of pulling it away. But yeah, of course, this game goes to overtime again. And Nichols pulls out to like an early lead. Luckily, Incarnate Word locked in a little bit. They were up 1 with like 50 seconds left. And then Nichols got a 2, and then there was a foul battle. And Nichols, thank God, misses 1 free throw at the end, because I would have been extremely tilted. But they cover the 4.5. I think this line had moved to 3.5, so some of you guys might have got screwed by the hook. Kind of the reverse of Oakland. So I guess to some degree it balances out. I lost CLV on 1, gained CLV, and both of them ended up being the difference. So it is what it is. Pepperdine 1/2 plus 11. Got a little bit sweaty. Gonzaga started to pull away a little bit near the end of the half, but Pepperdine luckily only lose the first half by like 9 points, so that cashes. Cleveland State, this game, the second game that pissed me off today, they were up 2 with like 50 seconds left, basically identical to the Oakland game. But Youngstown State hits a fucking 3 and the foul to go up 2, and then Cleveland State just never doesn't make a shot after that, and they just go back and forth missing until Youngstown ends up winning the game by 2. So this game really did piss me off a little bit. Both teams pulled ahead at some points. This game was neck and neck, but fortunately it didn't go my way. Youngstown ends up winning outright by 2. It is what it is. Honestly, Cleveland State didn't deserve to win. They put up fucking 21 points in the first half. They had their first point. They had 2 points in 9 minutes to start the game. So the fact that I almost had a chance at covering makes me feel a little bit better. But they looked so bad today. And Idaho, absolute wagon. They dominated that game basically the entire way. Got a little bit sweaty at some point near the end, but not really. Idaho wins this game by 10. They just shot lights out in the second half. They shot lights out in the entire game, and they played really well defensively against Portland State. They kept their turnovers to a really solid amount. Gonzalez just went crazy. Them and Payne, the two guards, just put up 20 points. Just a really impressive win from Idaho. I think they're going to get bounced to the next round, but by Montana. But I'm very, very impressed with how they played against a really potent Portland State offense. So good for them. 4-4 on the day. Lose like 0.18 units or something. Basically a nothing day. It is what it is. I think this day could have easily been 6-2, but it also easily could have been 2-6 if a couple other things didn't go our way at the end. So we'll take it. Hopefully, I do like the slate for today a lot more, and we do have a lock. So let's get into the 7 games that I like for March 11th, 2025. All right, heading on to game number 1, we have Cincinnati versus Oklahoma State. Now, these two teams just played, but I really just don't care about the game that they lost. Cincy had to go on the road for one game to play Oklahoma State, who was playing at home on their senior night, finishing off the season on a high note. I'm not truly impressed with their ability to beat Cincinnati in the spot. They are a team that plays much better at home. Awkward spot for Cincinnati. They had nothing to gain or lose. Their seeding was already locked in, so this was a pride win for Oklahoma State in that game. But now we're getting Cincinnati 3 days later in a really big revenge spot. And I really like Cincinnati's coaching a lot more than Oklahoma State's. I think they're going to review the shit out of the tape in that game. Obviously, they weren't playing that hard, and they obviously put up a pretty pathetic game. But I do really think Cincinnati's the better team here. They had a bit of a rough way to end the season, but they were looking a lot better to end the season off. They had some big wins over Utah, BYU, UCF, kept it pretty close against West Virginia, Iowa State, beat Baylor, beat TCU, kept it within single digits against Houston, lost to Kansas State in a really tight game. I think they are the way better team here. Oklahoma State, outside of that win, they really don't have any impressive wins. Sure, they beat Iowa State at home, but again, this is a team that plays really good at home. But their last win on the road goes all the way back to December 8th against Seton Hall. This is a glorified team that has big wins at home, but the second they hit the road, they're dog shit. They lost to UCF by 13, Baylor by 10, Kansas by 32, Texas Tech, that was at home. Lost to TCU by 1, Houston by 9, Kansas State by like 25, 28. This team cannot win on the road, and this is going to be a neutral game. So both teams are traveling. It's going to be a bit closer to Oklahoma State, but I still think there's going to be more fans for Cincinnati because they do, they have a much better tenure over the last 30, 40 years, and I think they are a team that probably has a lot more fans, especially that are going to travel for this one. I don't really know if there's that big of an Oklahoma State fan base, being totally honest. But yeah, we're getting a glorified Oklahoma State team that plays basically dog shit on the road, relies heavily on their home advantage. This is a Cincy team that plays just as good at home than they do on the road. They've been a better team. Obviously, they had a bit of a regression at the end of the year, but they're still a top 50 team. Oklahoma State is barely a top 100 team, if you want to put it at that. Oklahoma State's due for a decent chunk of negative regression. Cincinnati's still due for a little bit of a positive regression. And this is an Oklahoma State team that I really think this is a tough matchup for them. I think they're going to go into this game having beat Cincy, thinking they're going to play the same Cincy team they already just played a few days ago. But if you look at the matchup here, Oklahoma State, they like to shoot in the paint. That's 42% of the shots come from in the paint. This is a Cincy team that is a top 25 near basket defense. They're going to completely stuff them in the paint. I don't think they're going to find any success. Oklahoma State, they're a team that relies heavily on getting points off steals. They're ranked 20th in potential points off steals. This is a Cincy team that does not turn the ball over. They're ranked 14th in college basketball in limiting points off turnovers. two ways Oklahoma State typically relies on getting points they're going to struggle with. I really see the only way they're going to find success here is on the offensive boards, but they're not really a team that gets that many boards in the first place. They're not really that good at converting them. If you look into it again, this is Oklahoma State. They're used to getting a lot of free throws. This is a Cincinnati team that's ranked top 5, ranked 4th in college basketball in limiting free throw attempts to the other team. Everywhere that Oklahoma State relies on getting scoring, I think Cincy plays really well. They're a very, very, very good defensive team. And yeah, I think that's going to be a big problem here. Obviously, Cincy's not that good at getting the ball in the basket, but if Oklahoma State can't find success offensively, Cincy's going to slowly grind them out in the way that they know how to play. Obviously, Cincy shoots everything pretty evenly. They're going to find some success in the paint against an Oklahoma State team that doesn't defend the paint well. They'll probably find some success from the three-point line against an Oklahoma State team ranked outside of the top 150 in three-point defense. They're going to find some success on points off steals. They're going to find some success on the offensive glass. Again, Oklahoma State is a team that plays really fast-paced. Since he's going to be the better team here, they're going to slow this game down. Oklahoma State is going to try to play in transition, but they're not going to find any success against this Cincy team. So I think we're getting a really good number, 5.5, with a Cincy team that, again, on paper, still a much better offensive team than Oklahoma State. 50 rating points higher in field goal percentage. They're the way better defensive team, especially where it matters. Yeah, I think Oklahoma State, despite having all this momentum, is going to really struggle here against a Cincy team that kind of had a really shitty season, and it's going to have a lot to prove here. If they want to have any chance of making the big tourney, they're going to probably have to do really well in this Big 12 tournament. So, yeah, fuck it. Give me Cincy minus 5.5. I think this is a great revenge spot here where they completely crush this Oklahoma State team that just can't play unless they're playing in front of their home crowd. So, yeah. All right, that brings us to our lock of the day, which is going to be Notre Dame plus 4.5, maybe a little sprinkle on the money line. This is a Pitt team that plays really bad on the road, and this is a Notre Dame team that plays really good on the road. And if you look at how these two teams have kind of finished off the season, yes, Pitt has a slightly better record, but Notre Dame has finished off the season really well. And I think they're the better team coming into this game. Both teams, if you look at the advanced stats, obviously I do think Pitt is the better team on paper. They're a really good free throw shooting team. They force a lot of turnovers. They're going to have some success in this game. But again, on the road, Notre Dame is kind of another beast here, and they're due for a good chunk of positive regression. If you look at the power ratings of these two teams, Notre Dame on the road is ranked basically a top 75 team, and Pittsburgh falls outside of the top 75 when they hit the road. They rely heavily on their home advantage, which is the best in the conference, probably one of the best in all of college basketball, top 5. And I'm not really sure what kind of crowd environment this is going to be, but this game is pretty far from both teams. I think both it's going to be pretty split. I'd almost argue there's more fans for Notre Dame than there are for Pitt, just because this is a school that kind of prides themselves, especially in football, in their team being solid. I think there could be more Notre Dame fans here than there are Pitt fans. On paper, we're getting 4 points here in a spot here where Pitt is not playing at home. It's a Notre Dame team on paper that shoots a lot of mid-range and threes. They're going to find success here. Pitt only defends the paint well, and that's where Notre Dame does not shoot very many shots. Pitt ranked 260th in three-point defense, ranked 223rd in mid-range defense. Notre Dame ranked top 50 in mid-range, top 100 in three-point percentage. They're going to find success offensively where they like to shoot. Pitt, they're a team that shoots, again, a lot of threes. 40%, almost 40% of their shots, more than 40% of their shots come from beyond the arc. And Notre Dame, that's the thing they defend the best, ranked 35th in three-point defense. They're not going to find much success defending the paint. They're going to give up probably a good chunk of turnovers. But again, this is a Pitt team that also kind of, is going to struggle if they can't hit their threes. They're going to get to the free throw line a little bit. Notre Dame doesn't foul that much. Both teams, I think, are going to get to the free throw line, I would say, almost the same amount. Obviously, Pitt has the advantage here, being top 20 free throw shooting team. But Notre Dame has been much better at shooting free throws down the stretch. They're the better team in field goal percentage by about 30 points over Pitt. Pitt is obviously the slightly better defense, but I think they're not a good defense where it counts. So getting plus 4 points here. The team plays better on the road. We're getting them in a fantastic spot. They're going to have the best player on the court that averages over 20 points per game, and I think that's going to be the difference. Marcus Burton is just a absolute beast, and I think he's going to prove himself in this tournament. That Pitt is kind of a fraud this year, where they're not playing at home. So give me Notre Dame plus 4 and a little sprinkle on the money line as well. All right, bringing us to game number 3, we have Maine versus Vermont. Now, Vermont owns this division. Like, this conference, I think is the America East is just Vermont's conference. Yes, Maine has been a pretty solid team this year, and I don't really like to look at Maine's or Vermont stats because their stats got so crushed early on in the season with how terrible they were. Like, if you look at their games early on in the season, they had some pretty pathetic losses. Like, they were putting up like 50 points in games against really bad teams. They looked terrible to start off the year. And Maine has been a pretty up and down team. They've never really got really hot. They had a bit of a hot stretch in the middle, but Vermont is coming to this game hot. They won 10 in a row, including 2 wins over Maine in that stretch. Both were a 5-point win, or 6-point win, and a 4-point win, both which would have covered. And Maine is kind of, I like to call them home Andes. Again, I guess it's the third time where I'm fading a team that sucks on the road. But if you look at the power ratings of these two teams, Maine at home, solid team, top 150. One of the better home advantages in college basketball, second best in all of college basketball. But on the road, they suck. They fall to being a outside of top 200 team. Vermont, if you look at their last 5 games, they've been a top 150 team. Maine has been not even a top 200 team. Vermont's just playing the better basketball. They've had the harder strength of schedule, especially in conference. They have the insane head-to-head matchup where they've dominated the last 2 games. If you look at the head-to-head of these two teams, going all the way back to 1997, let me just start. Since 2013, Vermont has beat Maine every single time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 games in a row. They have beat Maine 30 games in a row. And in almost every single one of these games that I'm looking at, they cover this number. They have owned this team. They are the better team in this conference. Nothing is going to change that. They know exactly how to beat this Maine team, especially on their own home court, which is going to be probably pretty packed. Maine heading on the road where they play dog shit. Not a significant travel spot, but they're traveling 200 miles to play this game. Vermont's won their last 4 at home, all which would have covered this number. This should honestly be a lock. I think Vermont is going to crush Maine like they have for the last fucking 10, 20, 30 years. So give me Vermont. They own Maine, and they're going to prove it again and again that Maine sucks dick when they're not playing at home. So give me Vermont minus 3.5. All right, and that brings us to game number 4, which is going to be Syracuse versus Florida State. Now, obviously, Syracuse kind of finished off the year playing much better. They had a really tight loss against SMU, tight loss against Virginia Tech. They beat NC State, beat Virginia. Decently tight game against North Carolina, Miami. They beat Boston College. They've been much better to end off the year. Florida State, you could say they've been okay to end off the year. They have some solid wins over Wake Forest, Notre Dame, SMU, but they did lose to Virginia, lost to North Carolina. Pretty decent loss to Louisville on the road. They only lost by 8 points. But they were really, really good to start off the year. They had a bit of a rough stretch where they lost 4 in a row twice this year. But I think when it comes to tournament, they have the better coach. They have the better franchise. I guess franchise school. I don't know what you'd call it, but I think this team has made it to this tournament more than Syracuse. And Syracuse is going to have to travel probably 200 miles more for this game. I expect there to probably be 65-35 in terms of fans. I think Florida State has a bit more of an intense fan base. So I think it's going to be a bit more of a home environment for Florida State. If you look at these two teams, they both finished off the year pretty even. Syracuse finished off the year as a top 75 team. Florida State top 100, but overall, Florida State has been the better team on the season. Just the fact that Syracuse kind of ended off on a better note, but both teams have played decently equal schedules. Florida I just think Florida State, they kind of struggle really, really badly against top 25 teams, but when they play teams like Syracuse, they play much, much, much better than I think Syracuse will. And on paper, other than the momentum of Syracuse having a really good end to their season, Florida State's just being the better team, and they have a good matchup here, especially defensively. Offensively, they're going to find a lot of success near paint, mid-range, against a really bad Syracuse defense ranked outside of the top 200 in mid-range and near basket. Florida State, they don't really like to take that many threes. Only like 30% of their shots are from three, which they're probably not going to fall. The one thing that Syracuse does well, really, really well, is they defend the offensive boards. So I think FSU might struggle a little bit there, but I still think that it's going to be about even in offensive boards. I think that the difference here is that FSU is elite at getting boards, Syracuse is elite at defending boards, but on the other side, Syracuse and FSU kind of match up the same on the opposite side. So I don't think Syracuse has a huge edge in the offensive rebounding, but it is very clear that FSU is a massive advantage in turning the ball over. They're borderline a top 100 team at forcing points off turnovers. Syracuse turns the ball over a lot, ranked 336 in potential points off steals. Syracuse, they don't get really any points off turnovers. FSU doesn't turn the ball over that much, so I think Florida State's going to have a huge advantage on that front. Florida State, they don't really shoot a lot of threes. They shoot mid-range, near basket. These are two shots that Florida State shoot decently well, and Syracuse can't defend right outside the top 200. In both of them, they defend the three the best of anything that they do defend, but that's going to be a problem. Florida State, they're going to get to the line a lot more than Syracuse will, and they are a better free throw shooting team. So when I look at it offensively, Florida State is going to have a really good matchup. On the other side, Syracuse, they're going to really struggle to score here. They might get to the free throw line a decent amount, but they're not a good free throw shooting team. They like to shoot kind of similarly to Florida State, is they don't shoot that many threes. They only shoot about 34% of their shots from three, which is not that big of a proportion when you compare it to the league average. They shoot mid-range and near basket. And this is an FSU team ranked 40th in near basket defense, ranked 6th in mid-range defense. They don't turn the ball over. They're pretty solid second offensive board defender. I don't know. Literally everything other than the fact that Syracuse has been playing better to end the year leans that I think Florida State should just completely dominate this game. So I love Florida State in the spot. I think they can win this game by double digits. I don't think the Orange are really that good of a team. And I think their defensive problems are going to show here. And Florida State, just like they beat them by 17, is probably going to look very similarly. Again, the line stinks. I think it should be much bigger, which makes me a bit scared that I'm missing something. But again, yeah, I think Florida State is just a way better team on both sides of the ball. Yeah, give me Florida State here, -3. All right, and that brings us to game number 5, which is Fairfield versus Sacred Heart. Fairfield, they're a scrappy team. I've taken them as dogs a few times this tournament where they won outright, but I think Sacred Heart here is just going to be the better play. Sacred Heart, both these teams have played, haven't played since the 8th. Fairfield ended off on a really solid win over Quinnipiac. Sacred Heart coming off a tough L, 2 tough L's to Manhattan and Iona. But again, the Sacred Heart team just beat Fairfield at home by 21 points, and they beat them on the road by 6. We're getting them at only 3.5. Another line that kind of stinks, if I'm being honest. Travel-wise, this is a neutral court. Both teams traveling a little over 100 miles. But again, I think Sacred Heart probably will have more home players coming to this court because they do have the bigger home advantage in college basketball, which typically relates to the fact that they have more fans kind of screaming. They have a top 50 home advantage in college basketball. Both teams suck on the road. Obviously, Fairfield ended off the season on a high note. Sacred Heart kind of started to look a little bit shittier. But on the season, man, like I think it's hard to say that Sacred Heart hasn't been the way better team. If you look at how these two teams match up, Fairfield probably will have some success forcing turnovers, but offensively, this Sacred Heart team is about 100 rating points better. Defensively, they're like 70 rating points better. They're a team that shoots a lot of threes. They're going to have a lot of success here against a Fairfield three-point defense that's ranked 337th in college basketball. That's kind of all they do. They're going to have some success on the offensive glass. They're against a Fairfield team that's ranked 307th in limiting offensive board opportunities. The one thing that Fairfield does really well, and that's something that Sacred Heart typically likes to do, is force turnovers. But again, I think that the gap here is Fairfield doesn't turn the ball over that much, and Sacred Heart But Sacred Heart is just much better at forcing turnovers. And on the other side, Fairfield, yes, they're going to have Sacred Heart does turn the ball over a lot more, but the fact that Fairfield isn't as good as forcing turnovers, I think is going to end up balancing it out in the end, such that I think no team's going to have a true edge in turnovers. Again, offensive board wise, I don't think either team's going to have a significant advantage. Shooting free throws, I don't think any team's going to have an advantage. So it really is going to come down to offensive versus defensive, and Sacred Heart just straight up has the better offense. They've beaten this team twice already. Yeah, you could argue there's some kind of revenge spot here, but in terms of the MAC, I think Sacred Heart is the better team. We're getting a really good, fair line with them here. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very chalky play, but I don't think this is a good spot here for Fairfield unless they can find some success shooting the ball, but they're just not a good team at shooting the ball. That's just the truth. So give me Sacred Heart here, -3.5. I think they win this game by 5 or 6 points. All right, so that brings us to our final two bets of the day. Number one, Delaware versus UNC Wilmington. Man, I just think both these teams don't really play very good defense. And both teams offensively, especially Delaware lately, they have not been missing. And everyone keeps saying, oh, they're going to slow down. They're not slowing down. They have not slowed down at all. I think defensively, UNC Wilmington is going to have no problems. Delaware is a really bad defense, and UNC Wilmington is a very elite offense, especially in the conference. They're going to have no problems scoring anywhere. They're going to get a lot of offensive boards. They're going to have a lot of success in the paint, a lot of success from three. Delaware is just a bad team. They don't defend the three well at all. And UNCW, really good free throw shooting team. If we go to the other side, again, the spread is pretty big, but Delaware's been keeping these games close. And I think if it comes push to shove, and these two teams are fouling a lot, these are two elite free throw shooting teams, both above 75% from the line, are ranked 26 and ranked 72. So if it comes down to back and forth free throws, these teams, I think they're going to both of these teams are going to be making them. On the other side, Delaware, not really, I guess, that elite of a offensive team technically, but they are field goal percentage wise, 40 rating points higher. Obviously, UNCW is a much better defensive team, but Delaware shoots a lot of threes and they shoot a lot in the paint. And these are both the spots that UNCW is not good at defending. They're ranked 228th in defending the three, ranked 253rd in defending the near basket. Yeah, Delaware. That's all really Delaware does. They play at a really, really high pace. They run all the way up, and they shoot the ball, typically from three, or they just run it in for an easy layup. That's all they do. And they're ranked 46th in pace. They run it really quickly. Now UNCW on paper is a really slow offense, but Delaware is just such a bad defense that I think UNCW is not going to have any problems just going up the floor and finding an opening really quickly. Delaware can't defend well, and sure, UNCW technically plays slowly, but they're just gonna have success scoring. That's just Delaware's not a big team. They're gonna just run it up. I think the pace is gonna speed up a lot here, with Delaware trying to kind of raise the pace of this game. So I think 148 is a low number. I think we get easily to 150. I really like this number at 148. Yes, Delaware's due to start missing, but they're still a team due for a ton of positive regression, like massive. And I still think this is maybe just who they should be. It's maybe just how they shoot. So I do like that over. And game number 2, we have Prairie View A&M versus Florida A&M. I don't love backing this Prairie View team, but both these teams suck. Both these teams, when they've had to travel, they're both 0-8 in those games. Both these teams suck when they're not playing at home. But again, I think this is a team, a Florida A&M team that really does rely on their home advantage to win games. If you kind of look at their schedules, they play way better at home. Starting just in January, they have 2 home wins, 2 road wins, which are impressive. Then they went home 1 home win, 2 road wins. But as of lately, 2 road losses, home win, 2 losses. They've kind of been shitty to end off the year. Obviously, Prairie View is not a good team. They have 4 wins this year. 5 wins. 1 against College of Biblical Studies, where they somehow still gave up 90 points in that game against that school. They have a win over Grambling. They have 2 wins over Mississippi Valley State, and they have 1 win over Arkansas Pine Bluff. That being said, they still keep a lot of games close. Bethune, they only lost by 3. Southern, the best team in the conference. They only lost by 4. Played Oklahoma. They only lost that game by 22, which is honestly kind of impressive. Loyola Marymount, they only lost by 1. This is a team that, they're not very good at ending off games. Incarnate Word, they lost by 3. But they're a team that has a chance to keep it close. And historically in this tournament, they have kind of been sneakily competitive. If you look at the power ratings of these two teams, this is a Florida A&M team that is actually really good at home. Basically a top 250 team, but on the road, they're in the dumpster. They're 337th. Prairie View plays a little bit better on the road, actually. Still not good, but these two teams are not that far off when they're not playing on their home court. I don't really think there's too much to say. I think this is just a little bit too many points here. Both these teams are traveling pretty significantly far. Prairie View's traveling 700 miles. Florida A&M only 200. You could argue that they're going to have a home advantage here, but I don't know how many people are paying to go to this game. But on paper, I think Prairie View has played. They're a much better team on the road than Florida A&M is. And I think they're going to find success here if they can force turnovers. This is a Florida A&M team that offensively, not really that good. They shoot up a lot of threes. They're basically ranked 250 everywhere offensively. But the one thing that Prairie View does, the only thing that Prairie View does well, is they're good at forcing turnovers and they're good at not turning the ball over. They're really not going to find much success here offensively. But I think they're able to keep this game close because I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. They play at a really fast pace, and a lot of the points just come from points off steals. And the SWAC, they're basically a top 200 team in forcing up points off turnovers. Florida A&M turns the ball over a lot, ranked 310th. On the other side, Prairie View top 100 and not turning the ball over, and top 320 in Florida A&M top 320 in getting turnovers. So I don't know. I don't love this game, but this is more of a model play. I have this as a Florida A&M 5-point win. We're getting 3.5 points. I have bet Prairie View many times this year, and it's kind of always been disgusting, and they lose by a lot more than the model kind of projects them to. But I think they can show up in this tournament. I don't really think this is that good of a Florida A&M team, especially defensively. Obviously, Prairie View is not that good of a team, but I think 8.5 points is a little bit too much for a SWAC game, especially for a team that turns the ball over so much and fouls a lot. So disgusting ass game, but give me Prairie View A&M plus 8.5 on FanDuel, minus 115. Now in terms of leans, Grambling, they've kind of owned this head-to-head. I think they are just a way, way, way better team than Alabama A&M. And if they don't turn the ball over, which they haven't in their most recent games against them, they are the way better team, especially on the road. I might end up betting this one. I think they're just the better team, especially on the offensive boards, but I guess we'll see how this game goes. Who knows? Alabama A&M may be kind of motivated here. TCU, I think they're just the better team. Colorado, kind of a team that relies too heavily on playing at home. But again, I don't know. TCU, they're not that good of a team unless they can force turnovers. I don't really like to support them. They're so bad at shooting free throws that I hate betting them because they always screw me in the end of the games. If the game is somewhat close, TCU is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in college basketball, right? 347th. So only reason I'm not supporting them here. I think they're the better team, but if it gets tight and Colorado is making baskets and fouling, I don't like that TSU is going to probably shoot 1 for 2 or 0 for 2 like a few times in the last 3 minutes. So not touching that one. California, I think they're the way better team on paper than Virginia Tech. The only reason I don't like this game is because I really don't know what to expect. Both these teams do what they do pretty well. And Virginia Tech is just a team that shoots a lot of threes, and Cal has had a problem with defending the three. So if they get hot from 3, this could be a messy game. But yeah, not betting this one. But I think Cal is just a more consistent team. And if Virginia Tech's threes don't fall, this could become. I think it's gonna be a 20-point win for one of these teams. So I'm not gonna touch it. If VT can hit their threes, they win this game by 20. If they can't, then California wins this game by 20. It's that simple. And UTEP. Sam Houston's been playing better, especially to end off the year. But I do think UTEP's consistency is going to help them. And they're actually a decent 3-point defense. And if Sacred Heart or Sam Houston can't hit their threes, That's basically their entire offense. They're the second best 3-point percentage in college basketball, which is really impressive. But a lot of that comes from how well they hit their threes at home. And now on the road in like a neutral setting against a team that defends the three decently well. I think UTEP's consistency means they're just going to get, they're going to slowly get their points. If Sam Houston's not hitting their threes, then they're not going to win this game. So I might end up actually betting UTEP. We'll see. Maybe I'll look for a live bet if Sam Houston hits a few threes early. But I think UTEP is just a more consistent team, which I think matters a lot more in these kind of neutral court environments that are a bit more awkward, can kind of ruin your flow. So yeah, those are the 7 games that I bet. I actually really love this slate. The first 6 games I love. Prairie View, my model loves it, but I can't be that confident in it. But I do like to have 7 games every day if I can find angles. Maybe UTEP should replace Prairie View. I don't know. But always keep an eye out. I always put a pinned comment. I'll edit that in the morning if there are any games that I added. Also, you can check out my Discord. It's completely free. We have a big community of like 4,000 people in there. We love to just chat sports, shoot the shit. We'd love to have you. And yeah, that's everything for today. Thank you so much for all the support. Appreciate all the comments, the kind words. Hopefully we have a solid day today after 2 small losing days. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys tomorrow.